This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 641.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. Hello, everybody. This is Adam Sylvie, host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. There are none. This past weekend was WordCamp Europe out in Krakow, Poland, and I heard it was amazing. And I saw photos, and I know a lot of people were there, and I was not there. Kind of sad. But it'll never replace Italy in my heart. Sorry. Yeah, just Italy was amazing 2 years ago, and all the spoons and Spooner. If you know what you know. All right, Emma, moving on. Anyway, so no events this weekend coming up, no WordCamps, so sorry. All right, moving on, segment one in the news. Only one thing to talk about here, and that is WordPress.org has launched a new security initiative called Protect the Shire, and the TLDR is that it's a way to have updates for plugins be held for 24 hours before being distributed through auto updates, because that gives human reviewers and AI-powered security tools time to inspect the code. So it's pretty cool, I guess, because you want to make sure no bad code gets out there. So if you want to read more about it, you can go to the link in the show notes or over to wordpress.org / I believe it's news. So yeah, that is it in the news. Yeah, that's it. All right, moving right along, segment two, the meat potatoes of this week's episode. So last week, I attended the Launch Apex Cohort 9 graduation here in Apex, North Carolina, just one town down from me. And a quick backstory, as I'm not sure I've mentioned, or maybe it's been a while. So Launch Apex is a program designed to help local entrepreneurs and small business owners take their businesses to the next level through education, mentoring, networking, and access to some resources. It's a free service. You have to live in that town, you have to apply, and they go through, 3 months or 4 months of coursework, if you will, and then there's 6 months of mentoring. And I have had the privilege, on that note, of serving as a mentor for 7 of the last 9 cohorts, which might be an unofficial record, but either way, I've loved doing it, and it's been pretty cool. So what I've enjoyed most about the program isn't necessarily helping someone build a business plan or walk through the challenge. More, it's getting a front row seat to watch how people think, learn, adapt, and grow. And that's what really struck me from the graduation this past week. And it was odd because it's not the first time I've talked about career changes, burnout, or changing direction. I've done that many a time. Back in episode 119, I think it was the first time about changing your directions with WordPress careers. Back in episode 225, burnout, 271, burnout in general. 225 was entrepreneurial burnout. And then episode 364, if I'm not mistaken here, explored 5 reasons why changing careers might actually make sense. But that was back in 2021. And sitting in that room a few days ago, listening to the business owners share their journeys, I realized there's another angle to this conversation that I don't think we've ever really explored. And that would be pivoting. And not because something has failed, not because somebody quit, but because they've learned something. The graduates they started sharing updates on their businesses, and I noticed a pattern. A lot of them weren't doing exactly what they thought they'd be doing when they started the cohort. And surprisingly, that wasn't bad news. In many cases, it was actually the best possible outcome. And there was an unexpected theme of the evening. Each graduate came to the microphone. As they came to the microphone, I expected to hear usual updates, revenue growth, new clients, extended services, maybe a new office, maybe whatever, and that type of thing. Instead, what I kept hearing were variations of the same story. We changed directions, we rebranded, we adjusted our model, or we discovered something else totally. So by the end of the evening, I estimated that roughly 40% of the presenters had experienced some form of significant pivot, which was really high. I've thought back to the previous cohorts, and it was maybe 10%. This was a much larger percentage this time around. And not just a minor adjustment, a real change in direction. And the more I listened, the more I realized something that was important. And what I want to share is that people who pivoted weren't necessarily the ones struggling. Many of them were the ones learning the fastest. So I think it's 5 sections, 4 sections here, just to kind of go over in discussing this type of thing. So the plan is really the plan is section 1 here. The one thing I noticed was that several graduates aren't doing exactly what they originally entered the program to do. Some discovered their initial business ideas weren't viable. Others just found a better opportunity. Some realized they loved a different part of the business more than the original concept. Erica talked about taking parts of her industry, that parts of her industry have slowed in the current economic climate. And rather than forcing something that wasn't getting traction, she's taking a role with Microsoft while still exploring ways to share her expertise, perhaps through YouTube or another platform. She's actually moving across the country to do this, but she just realized that better sooner than later, I think, as well. Another participant started woodworking as a hobby, ended up building a business around gifts for real estate professionals. Again, wasn't what they were expecting to be doing, but that's where they're going. The original idea may have changed, the destination changed, but the mission stayed the same for all of them. Many of the entrepreneurs became attached to the vehicle instead of the destination. The goal necessarily is, okay, I have 4 sections to kind of get through here in regards to this pivoting of the world, if you will, of businesses. And number 1 is the plan is rarely the plan. The one thing I noticed was that several graduates aren't doing exactly what they originally entered the program to do. Not at all. Some discovered their initial businesses just weren't viable. Others found better opportunities. Some of them realized they liked parts of the business more than other parts and other concepts. Erica talked about how parts of her industry have really slowed in the current economic climate. Rather than forcing that down a channel that wasn't going to gain traction, she's taken a role with Microsoft, a full-time job, while still exploring ways to share that expertise, perhaps through YouTube or other social media channels. Another participant mentioned that he started woodworking as a hobby and wanted to build a business around it, but pivoted to build a business around gifts for real estate agents using the woodworking. It was just not what he expected to be doing. So yes, the original idea changed. Yes, the destination changed, but the mission stayed the same. Many entrepreneurs become attached to the vehicle instead of the destination. It's true. I've done that as well. The goal isn't necessarily the exact product, service, or business model you imagined on day one. The goal is creating value and building something meaningful, something that means, sometimes that means taking a different road than the original one you mapped out. It's just true. Okay. So section 2, pivoting is data, not defeat. One thing I heard repeatedly was how mentors helped participants evaluate ideas objectively. Sometimes that evaluation revealed uncomfortable truths. It's true. Maybe the market wasn't large. Maybe customer demand wasn't there. Maybe the economics simply didn't work. And that's okay. Imagine spending 6 months researching an idea, discovering it probably won't succeed. Some people would call that a failure. I kind of call that a bargain because honestly, the alternative is spending 5 years, tens of thousands of dollars, countless hours pursuing something the market never wanted. A pivot is not admitting defeat. A pivot is responding to evidence. Good entrepreneurs don't ignore data. They listen to it, they adapt, and they move forward with better information than they had before. Okay, section 3, your identity is bigger than your job title. It's crazy to say it that way, but it's true. Several graduates weren't abandoning their passions. They were just changing how those passions showed up in the world. My own mentee is a great example. She entered the program primarily as a yoga instructor. Today, she's evolving towards somatic and art therapy coaching. She's writing, she has a literary agent, she has a book coming out. The mission is helping people. The method has changed. Too often, we define ourselves by a title: yoga teacher, designer, developer, consultant, coach, author. But perhaps the better question is, what problem am I trying to solve? When you focus on the mission instead of the title, pivots become much easier. Okay, last section, number 4 here, momentum beats perfection. One of the graduates, as they were walking up to the podium, jokingly said, "Yep, me too, another pivot person." And that got a laugh because by then it had become very apparent and a recurring theme throughout the evening. But there was something deeper there. These people didn't stop. They didn't quit. They didn't disappear. They kept moving. Maybe not in the original direction, but they kept moving because momentum matters. You can steer a moving car. You can't steer a parked one. And many entrepreneurs, wait and spend years for certainty before taking action. I know I've done this. I'm guilty. The people that I saw last week took action first. They adjusted course when new information appeared. And that is how often that's often how success actually works. It's just that action has to be taken. Okay, last little thought here. One of the biggest myths in business and careers in life is that successful people follow a straight line. They don't, trust me. Looking back at my own career, there have been so many pivots. There have been so many detours, so many domain purchases. There have been projects that looked promising that went nowhere. Things I've started, and I'll just leave it there. See what I did there? Anyway, there have been opportunities that appeared unexpectedly and became some of the most meaningful experiences of my professional life. And WordPress and this podcast go to show that exactly is true. I'm not sure if I said that right, but you know what I mean. Anyway, if I suspect if you're listening to this podcast, the same is probably for you as well. The entrepreneur who changes their business model isn't failing. The employee who changes careers isn't failing. The creator who abandons a project that isn't working isn't failing. They're learning, they're adapting. They're responding to reality instead of clinging to a plan that no longer makes sense. That's not a weakness, that's wisdom, okay? And I try to eat my own dog food, and I am making pivots, and I'm doing things, and I'm sharing what I can, and I hope that helps you share what you want to as well, and do what you can. All right. If you want to share your story, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. All right, moving on, segment 3, tip and tool of the week. And actually, this is part of that pivot, slightly detour. We'll see where it goes. It's a tool. It's called meldstudio.co. It's an alternative to OBS and other streaming platform tools. It's for live streaming. I added this to my weekly schedule. I started last week on the DL. I'm going to be sharing more video through Twitch and the YouTube channel. Did you know KitchensinkWP has a YouTube channel? It's true. All the podcasts go there as well. And I've done a few little things here and there, but I'm using meldstudio.co for right now. It's free. There's a paid version, and check it out if you want to. It's kind of neat. You can give some AI prompts for some layouts and scenes, if you will. But anyway, like I said, meldstudio.co. If you want to follow me, go subscribe to those two channels. I'm on Twitch and on YouTube, and yeah, so pretty cool. All right, check it out. Now I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com, or use the SpeakPipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, become a Patreon. That'd be great. You can also buy me a coffee. And thanks to the coffee gift I got this week. I really do appreciate it. It was really sweet. Out of the blue, just saw somebody got me 3 coffees. Very happy to get that. Thank you so much. Can't remember his name all of a sudden. I'm so sorry. Anyway, if you want to sponsor this show, you can do that too. There's a form on the website. Fill it out, get it back to you. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right? Bye-bye.